In this video, I will discuss plagiarism, referencing, technical presentation, formal writing, and I will provide an overview of basic communication theories. We begin with academic integrity, which covers plagiarism, referencing, technical presentation, and formal writing. So, what exactly is plagiarism? Firstly, not providing references and in-text citations is considered a form of plagiarism. You have to provide a reference within the body of your text that matches a full text reference at the end of the document in the list of sources consulted. This is a way of acknowledging the work of other people and not passing off someone else's work as your own, whether intentionally or unintentionally, even if it is paraphrased. Copying and pasting information from the internet or other sources of information is another form of plagiarism. Information derived from sources such as the internet, textbooks, study guides, and blogs, etc., must be paraphrased and cited. And where exact words are used, these must be written in quotation marks, as discussed next. Verbatim quotes refer to an instance when the exact words are written from a source. This constitutes plagiarism if verbatim text is not written with quotation marks and are not cited and referenced correctly. Quotations should be used very selectively and should not exceed a sentence or two at most within a paragraph, and should be limited to less than 5% of the total text. Self-plagiarism also constitutes a breach of academic integrity. This means that your own work can be considered a form of plagiarism in certain instances. This can happen when you submit your own work that was previously submitted for another course, publication, or institution. Even if you are submitting the same work to the same institution but in a different department, this can be considered a form of plagiarism unless the rules and policies of submission state otherwise. So be really careful of this form of intentional or unintentional plagiarism. The first step to ensuring credible work is including a declaration of academic integrity. Place the declaration in the front of your assignment or portfolio and have this undertaking endorsed by a witness. What is a declaration? The declaration is a pledge that you make stating that you have read and understood the rules and policies applicable to academic integrity, and that you have attributed these principles in the work that you have submitted. It is not necessary to include the declaration when you submit answers to multiple choice questions on a marked reading sheet. Do not take this lightly, as you are pledging to uphold the standards of academic integrity, which should be evident in your work. Some institutions do not accept any work submitted if the declaration of academic integrity is not included or if it is not signed. Okay, you might ask, why do I need to reference my work? Providing a reference to your work acknowledges and gives credit to the original authors of the ideas that you have used in your work, ensures your work is trustworthy, displays an ethical code of conduct, and professional behavior in the academic, professional, and scientific communities. Provides a means for your readers to verify the information that you have presented. It shows that you have provided research-backed facts, theories, and arguments to substantiate a particular point of view, and adds credibility to your work and your opinions as you have research to support your arguments. Therefore, you should provide the full information of the sources that you have used and cited in text, so that researchers and critics can access these sources of information easily. Now that we understand why we have to reference our work, we now have to understand how to reference our work correctly. Firstly, you need to use the correct in-text referencing style, including page numbers after each argument derived from other sources. You can do this at the end of a sentence within paragraphs. Have a look at this in-text citations in this text. I have provided these in-text citations in blue so that you can easily see them, but you do not have to format them differently in your work. I did this so that you can easily see the citations in this example text. This is the Harvard method of referencing that we use in the Department of Communication Science. And this is what we expect of you for this course. Other departments, institutions, and organizations might require a different referencing style. In-text references cited in the body of the assignment should also be listed alphabetically in the list of sources consulted. These references should include tutorial letters, study guides, prescribed books, internet sources, articles, blog posts, etc. Should appear at the end of the assignment and should follow the Harvard method of referencing as explained in tutorial letter CMNALLE 301, which I will now refer to as tutorial letter 301. Have a look at this list of sources consulted. It has been populated according to the in-text references provided in the previous text. Each of the sources cited in text in the previous example has been listed in full in this list of sources consulted. Due to the fact that you will be making use of tutorial letter 301 to obtain the declaration, you have to acknowledge this in your list of sources consulted. Now we move on to the technical presentation requirements we expect of you in your submissions. The first requirement is the table of contents. Use the correct format for the table of contents, the different levels of headings and numbering, as explained in tutorial letter 301. It should be an exact reflection of the headings and numbering and page numbers within the assignment itself. There are some specific requirements for CBC 1501 in this regard. See this example here. Each document produced is different. Therefore, the numbering within each document does not follow from the previous question. This means that you only need to present the first level headings that represent the title of each question in the table of contents. Then you can concentrate on the headings within each document for each separate question without stressing about including this in the table of contents. Next, we discuss the overall introduction and the overall conclusion. You need to begin with a short introductory paragraph to introduce the subject and the assignment, and round off your assignment with a concluding paragraph or summary indicating how you have approached the assignment and summarize the main arguments. The graphic provided here also explains how you can structure your introduction and conclusion for an essay or for the assignment as a whole. Now that we have dealt with academic integrity and technical presentation, we move on to formal writing. Formal writing means that you need to articulate yourself clearly using a formal vocabulary and non-emotive expressions. Writing complete and grammatically precise sentences. Write predominantly in the third person. Very limited use of first and second person pronouns such as I, me, you, we, etc. should be evident in your writing. Avoid being overly friendly and jovial or emotional. And limit the use of metaphors and rhetorical questions that can create ambiguity to your intended message. You are writing for a professional audience, so you need to be professional and businesslike. I'm sure that you now have a good understanding of academic integrity, technical presentation, and formal writing. Now, we move on to a short discussion of the communication theories covered in this module. These are communication in the workplace, non-verbal communication and listening, interpersonal communication, group communication, and oral presentations. Remember that we usually use these communication theories in different scenarios when assessing you, so that you can see how these aspects play out in the work context. In the introduction to communication in the workplace, you will learn about the models of communication, communication in organizations, and improving your communication skills. We introduce you to two basic models of communication, namely the linear model and the interactive model. Communication models are made up of a mix of the different elements such as the communicator, the message, the channel, the recipient, feedback, noise, culture, and context. These elements and models will give you a basic understanding and definition of communication in the workplace. Communication theory in the workplace also includes an overview of organizational communication, which is the umbrella term for all the communication processes that occur internally and externally in the context of an organization. This would include intrapersonal communication, interpersonal communication, small group communication, oral presentations, public communication, mass communication, and digital communication. Workplace communication theory also entails workplace ethics, organizational climate, the flow of internal organizational communication, and networked and virtual communication. Finally, we provide some basic guidelines on how you can improve on your communication skills within the work context. We move on to non-verbal communication and listening. We usually focus on the spoken and written word, but we overlook the importance of non-verbal communication cues in written and oral communication. Research shows that non-verbal cues contribute more than 70% of the message. Non-verbal communication has various elements, functions, and uses that you must become aware of. Therefore, you need to be aware of your own non-verbal behavior, such as gestures and facial expressions, for example. The non-verbal cues you use in your text, such as typeface, typography, and images, for example, and how your non-verbal communication supplements, complements, or replaces the verbal message. Listening also is important in the communication transaction. Listening is different from hearing. Hearing is a biological function, while listening is a skill that you need to learn in order to be an effective communicator. Therefore, we teach you about the different types of listening, and we provide guidelines for promoting effective listening. The theories related to interpersonal communication deals with how you communicate with another person. Interpersonal communication is the basis of all other communication interactions in the workplace. However, in order to communicate effectively with another person, you need to understand your own behavior and how you feel about yourself. This is called intrapersonal communication. Intra and interpersonal communication builds on each other, and they affect your communicative behaviors in all contexts. We end this section with a discussion of the interview situation, as this is where you will have to use most of the guidelines on effective interpersonal communication skills. Again, we teach you how to draw up interview questions in the academic integrity video. Group communication refers to communication with more than two people in an organizational setting. Your communication style affects group leadership, group conflict, problem solving, and decision making. Therefore, we also discuss different leadership styles, and we provide guidelines on how to resolve group conflict. The final section that we cover in this module is oral presentations. Oral presentations deal with how you speak to a group of people on a formal platform. Speech writing is a skill and a planned act. There are many instances in your career when you will have to deliver a talk or speech on a particular topic for a specific purpose. That is why we teach you how to prepare a speech for a particular audience in different contexts and in multicultural settings. We also show you how to use different tools such as visual aids in your talk where applicable. You need to prepare yourself for a formal talk. Therefore, we teach you a particular method called the Monroe's motivated sequence to prepare an outline of a talk. An outline is not a speech, but the preparatory plan for the intended talk. We have discussed this outline in detail in the academic writing video series. This brings us to the end of this video.